Do you have unwanted weeds and other pests inside your tree tubes? Let's discuss how to best manage those unwanted visitors. There are a variety of common pests that you might find within your tree tubes, including mice and voles, birds, hornets and wasps, and weeds. Let's talk about how these pests find their way into your tree tubes and the eviction process for each of these unwanted pests. Mice, voles, and other rodents often find their ways into tree tubes by burrowing under the tube and coming up from below, or by chewing a hole into the tube for access. They can also gain access by crawling into a tube that was improperly secured when it was installed. When installing your tree tubes, always push the bottom end into the ground by applying a little pressure and rotating the tube into the soil. A tube that is improperly secured is an open invitation in the cold winter months. Remember, frost heave can undo your good work, so you may have to rebury tubes into the ground on a seasonal basis. Keeping up with weed maintenance around your tubes is important for discouraging rodents. You can also use stone mulch around your tree tubes to discourage rodents. Mice may still make their nests despite your best efforts. You can remove the tube from the stake and shake out the nest, or lift the tube slightly off the ground and pull out the nest. Use caution and wear gloves, as you may encounter an active nest with a litter of mice present. Rodent nests will block sunlight from reaching the leaves and rot tree bark. They will also chew and girdle the tree, which can cause the tree to die. For this reason, these animals and their nests must be removed from the tree tubes. A bird might fall into the tree tube and get stuck while searching for food inside. They can also make their nests within or on top of the tube. If the tree hasn't grown tall enough to emerge from the top of the tube, birds will have difficulty escaping. Bird nests are not a problem if they are in the canopy of the tree and well outside of the tube. If the nest is inside the tube, however, it will interfere with the growth of the tree either by blocking sunlight or stopping the tree from emerging. The nest must be removed. If a bird is found within a tree tube, the best way to free the bird is to raise the tube off the ground so it can escape. Gently shake the tube to encourage the bird to leave. Once the bird has left, you can begin nest removal. One way to prevent problems with birds is to use bird nets. These nets keep birds from entering and making nests within the tube. In order to keep the tree from being tangled in the bird net as it grows, install the net with a center hole as shown here. Hornets and wasps are also a common inhabitant of tree tubes during the growing season. They are mostly just a nuisance to those doing the maintenance, but they can attract animals like raccoons or bears who enjoy eating the insects. These larger mammals can do quite a bit of damage to a tree tube as well as the tree inside. It is typically not easy to spot when a wasp nest is inside a tube, so it is best to proceed with caution, especially if you have allergies. If you are doing work in your buffer when a nest is still active, it is best to use spray to kill off the nest. Be careful to avoid sprays labeled to kill these pests and also keep the area uninhabitable for weeks. These sprays contain compounds that could harm your tree if the leaves are coated. Instead, look for sprays that work on contact and are not foaming types. You can reduce encounters with hornets and wasps by avoiding tree tube maintenance during peak growing seasons. Bird nets may also help to deter hornets and wasps. Weeds, invasive plants, and other debris can accumulate within tree tubes throughout the year. While vines and climbing weeds can wrap around the outside of tubes, they can also find their way inside. Many weeds end up inside tree tubes because their seeds are deposited by bird droppings. This is another problem that could potentially be minimized using bird nets. Removing weeds from inside a tube without damaging the tree requires hand pulling. To begin, lift the tree tube from the ground by loosening the zip ties attached to the stake and sliding the whole tube up about 6 inches. Then pull all grasses, vines, and weeds growing in and around the base of the tube to prevent their future growth. Be careful not to pull on your tree seedling. Then, slide your tube back down the stake and set the base back into the soil. You can reduce the number of weeds within your tubes each season by sprinkling a very small amount of granular pre-emergent down each tube in early spring. Here is a demonstration of weed removal. Notice that before and after untying the tree tube, that the high grasses around the tube are pulled away from the tube. This reduces future growth and prevents the high grasses from blocking out the sunlight to the tree. It is always best to take your time with maintenance, as maintaining a tree is much easier than planting a new one and much less expensive. Through proper identification and management, you can control and remove unwanted pests and weeds from your tree tubes and help to improve the success of your new riparian buffer planting. If you have any additional questions about riparian buffer maintenance, or you're just interested in learning more, you can find a full series of videos and fact sheets on the Penn State Extension website. Just search for Growing Great Buffers.